Greetings and welcome. I Love Iodine here with another video, my video series on intestinal parasites. This video is going to cover naturally anti-parasitic and antifungal foods. The other topics that are included in this video series are listed here. Please take a moment, pause the video, read through them. You will find the videos covering these topics in the intestinal parasites playlist on this YouTube channel. Disclaimer. The information provided is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professional. This information is not to be used or relied upon for any diagnostic or treatment purposes. Please consult your healthcare practitioner before embarking on any diet, fast, exercise, or supplementation program, or if you have or suspect you might have a health problem. I am not a medical practitioner and I am not offering any medical advice. The claims made about specific foods in this presentation may not have been evaluated by the United States FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease and or make any claims thereof. The information provided is based upon my personal experiences and upon my own extensive research, yet each person is different, and the way you react to a particular food may be significantly different from the way that I react or reacted to such food. You should consult your physician or healthcare professional regarding any potential adverse interactions between your current medications and or nutritional supplements before introducing any food, herb, etc. into your diet and or before adding any new protocol to your lifestyle. Anti-parasitic and antifungal foods. It might not sound delicious, but once you see the list, you may change your mind. These are some foods that are very common and they are naturally anti-parasitic or antifungal. They include raw garlic, raw onion, fresh ginger, fresh turmeric, pineapple, papaya seeds, pomegranates, grapefruit, fresh figs, blackberries and cranberries, coconuts, beets, carrots, pumpkin seeds and other squash seeds, plantain leaf, cayenne and other hot peppers, fennel, horseradish and wasabi, fenugreek, and various types of radishes. These herbs that are listed here are not included in this video. There's a separate video that covers these. I wanted to just give this listing in case anyone was wondering why I missed things such as sage, cinnamon, cardamom, thyme, nutmeg, mace, clove, oregano, which are definitely anti-parasitic and antifungal foods, but they're covered in the herb section, so you can check out the video on that. Here is a listing of some foods that are beneficial during a parasite cleanse. Juices, any green juices, beet juice, carrot juice, we've already stated those are anti-parasitic. Anything from the anti-parasitic list, if you juice that, it would be very beneficial. Of course, adding in lots of leafy green vegetables every single day is a very healthy way to go. Non-starchy vegetables, of course, are going to enrich your diet. Sprouted legumes are a good source of fiber and protein. Those include different types of lentils and different types of beans. Probiotic-rich food is always beneficial. We need more probiotic-rich food in our diets. This includes raw sauerkraut, kefir, yogurt, kimchi, natto, miso, and a few other things not listed. Berries are very supportive. We have wild blueberries, raspberries, even strawberries. Anything with high water content and a lot of vitamins, especially vitamin C, are going to be very, very supportive when someone is doing a parasite cleanse. We want to keep the immune system up and keep everything working smoothly, keep all of the stuff in the intestines moving. So we can add some Granny Smith and other tart apples. Apples are very high in malic acid. They're very supportive and very healthy for the body. There's a reason they say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Of course, wild salmon and sardines, that's for people that eat fish, but they are good sources of omega-3 fatty acids. One word of note, salmon, of course, is a fish that actually carries two different types of fish tapeworms that humans can actually acquire. I had one of them. And it also harbors intestinal flukes and other parasites. If you are eating wild salmon, you either need to cook it thoroughly or you need to freeze it at the specified temperatures according to the CDC and for the specified length of time according to the CDC in order for it to be safe. The recommendations generally for the CDC for freezing the fish before eating it raw would be 7 days at -4 degrees Fahrenheit, which is equivalent to -10 degrees Celsius. Of course, it could be frozen for a shorter period of time if the temperature of your freezer was lower than what we just went over. Another food that's very supportive when you're doing a parasite cleanse is chicken or bone broth, fish bone broth as well, because these things are going to support you. They're going to be very warming, but they also have amino acids that are very easily to digest because they're already broken down, and they're going to help heal your intestinal tract. If you have a parasitic infection, those parasites attach to the intestinal walls with hooks and suckers. They are going to cause damage, and we need to be repairing that lining as quickly as possible, and chicken broth and fish broth can definitely help do that. Some seeds that I found to be very beneficial were chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds. Flax seeds has a mild laxative effect, so that's very supportive. And chia seeds, flax seeds, and hemp seeds are very high in omega-3 fatty acids in the form of ALA. The omega-3 content of the fish is going to be broken down already to the DHA and the EPA. If these are a little over your head, don't worry about it. Just dismiss that, and you can check out and learn a little bit more about that in a future time. Sesame seeds are also very supportive. I like to eat tahini. There are some protocols that call for using sesame seed oil. I have never done that. I personally don't like the taste of sesame seed oil. Maybe I should try that at one point, but it's not something I've tried at this present moment. But these are just some listings of foods that are beneficial. So now we're going to talk about the first one that was on the list, and it's raw garlic. Raw garlic is absolutely super healthy. Many people know that it's antifungal, it's antiviral, antibacterial. It is a powerhouse food. It is heart healthy, it lowers your cholesterol, it helps improve your metabolism. The best way to do it is garlic is to crush it and let it sit for about 10 minutes. There is a compound in it called alliin that is converted to the allicin. Once it's exposed to air, there is a chemical enzyme called allinase that does the conversion. And once it is converted to the allicin, that is where the medicinal benefits are supposed to be the most active. I do it both ways because I feel that there must be some benefit to the alliin, and maybe just by covering both bases, then it would be very beneficial. You'll find that raw garlic is in the same family as onions, which we're going to cover in a moment, as are leeks and shallots. I highly recommend eating lots of garlic. It improves your immune system. I eat it with a little bit of honey, especially if I'm going to get a cold, and I seem to never get a cold. So it does seem to have at least a help for me. There's a lot of scientific studies supporting this, showing that it does have these benefits. There are books written about garlic. So if you would like to learn more about garlic, you can absolutely find a lot of resources for that information. That being said, I found that this is one of the most key parts of my anti-parasitic protocol when I was treating my tapeworm infection, and I use it for all of my cleanses as I go forward as well. Raw onions is also very beneficial. There's a lot of variability between the different types of onions. It has been shown that the yellow onion is significantly higher in polyphenols than the sweet onions. That being said, I think all onions have a good benefit. But I think it's very important if you are doing a parasite cleanse to do the sharpest and the hottest onions you can possibly do. The sweeter onions are obviously going to maybe feed the parasites. You might not want to do that. Also, the green onions are very healthy. And both the raw onions and the raw garlic do grow wild near where I live. And I live in the East Coast of the United States. Fresh ginger root. This is also naturally anti-parasitic. Also, you can also have the herb that's actually been dried and powdered as well, and that's going to have a lot of benefits. There's actually a distinction that is made that there's a compound that is in the fresh ginger root that when they heat it, it gets converted to a different form, and both have medicinal benefits. They're just different. So these are things that can be incorporated, so don't be alarmed by, there's a lot of people that are raw foodists, and they are fearful of heating their foods, but there are benefits to heating foods. Some things are better raw, and some things are better heated, and some things are better both ways. Anyway, that being said, you can make teas with this. Ginger is an anti-nausea agent. There is a lot of research that is supporting that it is effective against parasites. I cover that more in the herb video, but this is just a highlight of some of the foods that are naturally anti-parasitic. I also add these to my smoothies. I usually add about 1 inch into my smoothies whenever I'm making it. Add some pineapple and papaya, and make a beautiful, delicious anti-parasitic smoothie. That would be delicious until I add so much cayenne pepper that it's almost intolerable to drink. But if you're actually fighting parasites, sometimes you have to eat food that isn't as palatable that you would want on a normal basis, but it does seem to be effective. Fresh turmeric root. Again, this is another herb. It's related to the ginger. They're in the same family, and it's absolutely beautiful. It has a compound in it called curcumin. You may have heard of it. It's been getting a lot of press recently. Most people are relying on that as the full extract, and that's where all the benefits are. I disagree. I think all the benefits are in the whole food as much as possible, but that's just my opinion. Also, if you're going to use turmeric and you want to get the benefits of curcumin, which turmeric root is approximately 3% curcumin by weight, you want to add a little bit of black pepper to it for the curcumin to be able to be bioavailable, for it to be able to be absorbed. So that is something you might want to do. But I heard something recently, and I think that this is very interesting and has a lot of merit, is that you might not want to add pepper all the time. If you don't add the pepper, then you may leave the curcumin to travel through your intestinal tract, and it might be very beneficial for healing your intestinal tract because it hasn't been absorbed. So that's just something to keep in mind. It is very anti-inflammatory, and it's very good for enhancing your liver function. The pineapple. Some people might wonder, how can a pineapple be anti-parasitic? It's a sweet fruit. Well, it is high in a proteoleic enzyme called bromelain. Proteoleic, we'll just think about that for a moment. It means protein digesting. Bromelain is measured in gelatin digesting units. And not to sound kind of gross, but worms are basically gelatinous. They're soft tissued for the most part. So this will help break them down, their body structure. And it's easier that I have found that the segments fall apart and then they can break up and be passed through your intestinal tract a lot easier. I found that pineapples were a very delicious addition to my parasite protocols. They're very high in vitamin C, they're very high in water content, they're easy to digest, and they're delicious. At least I think so. Also, the one thing I want to note is there are some websites that claim that if you do a 3-day pineapple fast, you will rid your body of tapeworms. If you are doing pineapples with the core, you may risk actually damaging your mouth. It can actually cause your lips, your mouth, your tongue to bleed, and possibly your esophagus. Be careful. There are a lot of claims out there made by unscrupulous people that say if you do this, it'll get rid of this. I do not believe anything that says it'll cure anything immediately. I mean, use your common sense. It's about balance and moderation. And anyway, that being said, these are definitely beneficial. I don't recommend doing any extreme type of protocols. You could be damaging your health. Papayas. This is also another food, and it has a proteoleic enzyme in it called papain, and that's also similar to the bromelain. It's going to help break down the structures of the parasites because it is a protein digesting enzyme. And it's better to go with the green. As it gets more yellow, the amount of the proteoleic enzyme does decrease. But the key powerhouse anti-parasitic benefit of the papaya actually lies in the seeds. So don't throw those away. You want to keep those. They have a kind of a sharp, almost like a black pepper taste. So they don't really taste fruity at all. But you can mix them either with a little bit of raw honey and chew them up really well, and that could be very beneficial. Especially a lot of protocols will talk about adding things in with honey because honey is going to draw the parasites to them because they want to get the sugar, and then they get a nice bite of maybe some papaya seeds, or other protocols would be like carom seeds, or other things that we can discuss in other videos. Anyway, another thing that I do is I just add them to the smoothies. If I'm cutting up the papaya, for whatever portion of the papaya that I'm using, I'll use about that amount of the papaya seeds. You can also dehydrate them and put them in a pepper mill and grind them onto your food just as you would black pepper. The next food is pomegranates. The most anti-parasitic benefits of the pomegranate really does come from the bark of the tree. I don't live anywhere where there are pomegranates growing, so that's really not an option for me. But the seeds are also very beneficial as well and do have some anti-parasitic benefits according to the research that I've done. I think that they're highly delicious, and I add them to my smoothies. I don't blend them. I leave them for something that I can chew on. The more you chew, the more you stimulate your digestive juices, and the more you actually increase your hydrochloric acid. That's going to be very beneficial for actually being able to prevent further infections. I think that is one reason that it might be beneficial to add them to your smoothies, and they are high in vitamin C and a lot of other vitamins that are going to support your immune system. Grapefruit. Grapefruit is a very delicious fruit, very high in vitamin C and other polyphenols. I do recommend, if you're eating the grapefruits, to actually consume the seeds. There's a supplement out there called grapefruit seed extract. It's called GSE. You might hear grape seed extract called GSE as well, but we're talking about the grapefruit seed extract here. And it's antifungal. So the main point of the grapefruit, it is an antifungal food, especially with the seeds. It also gives you some vitamin C. The best benefit would be from the yellow because it's lower in sugar than the ruby red or the pink grapefruit. But I've mixed it up a little bit based on what was available, what was in season. I live in the mid-Atlantic region of the United States, so grapefruits aren't really growing in my backyard. I wish they were, but I don't live in Florida. Anyway, this is definitely a nice addition and does add a little bit of variety to my parasite cleanse. Fresh figs are anti-parasitic as well. They have a proteolytic enzyme that's actually really noticed. It's more in the tree. It comes from the latex. Again, I don't live anywhere where fig trees grow very well, though it's been rumored that there's one actually in my town, but I haven't actually seen it produce anything. Anyway, if you can get access to fresh figs, they are very nutritious. You're not going to get the same benefit at all from the dried figs. Those are actually going to be a detriment during a parasite cleanse because they are concentrated sugar and the nutrients actually have been diminished whenever you dry the fruit. Blackberries. I found blackberries to be very anti-parasitic. When I was doing some of my cleanses early on, just eating blackberries for breakfast really was super beneficial, and I saw a lot of good positive results. I know that there is something in the blackberries that maybe it's their seeds or something that definitely makes the parasites break up and actually pass through the intestinal tract much easier. Cranberries are an antifungal food. They are not sweet at all. They're very, very tart. They have a lot of benefits. They help support the urinary tract. They are acidic, and there's an acid in them that when it goes through the urinary tract, it prevents bad bacteria such as E. coli from attaching to the intestinal walls and reduces the incidence of urinary tract infections. This is one of my favorite foods, coconuts. I like coconuts any way I can get them, but my favorite is the brown mature coconut and to eat the flesh. In fact, I just opened one today, and what I do is I take the flesh in pieces and I freeze it. That way, when I'm doing a parasite cleanse, I'm not fussing with coconuts. I actually have a little piece every single day. I find that the coconut fresh or even the dried coconut is superior to eating the coconut oil. I'm not saying that I don't eat the coconut oil, but I'm trying to limit that. I think getting the fats from the whole foods is more beneficial because you're getting the fiber and all the polyphenols and all the vitamins and nutrients, and you're reducing the risk of actually consuming rancid oils. Once the oils are outside the food, they do have the chance of oxidizing. Of course, coconut oil being a medium chain fatty acid, being high in saturated fats, the chance of recidity is much lower than, say, the polyunsaturated fats. But I'm still trying to get away from the oils as much as possible. Not completely there yet, but it's a process. I definitely get the unsweetened. You don't want to get the sweetened coconut. You don't want to be noshing on macaroons or anything while you're trying to do a parasite cleanse. You don't want the sugar. But the fresh food, the fresh type is very good. If you live somewhere where you can get the green coconut, where it's the young coconut, you get the coconut water and the young flesh, that's also a very nice addition. Coconuts are definitely known to be anti-parasitic, they're antifungal, they're high in lauric acid as far as the fats, and the medium chain fatty acids are very warming to the body because they are converted very quickly by your liver into energy. Beets and beet greens are anti-parasitic. What we're going to find is that this makes sense. All the root vegetables obviously are not getting eaten by the worms in the soil, so there is definitely some compound or chemical that these plants possess that make the worms say, no thank you. So this compound is passed on to you, so when you're eating them, the worms are like, I don't think I want this. We know that beets are very cleansing, they're very supportive of the liver, and they're also good for building your blood. If you have parasites attached to your intestinal walls, that could cause a little bit of bleeding internally. I'm not sure it would be very significant, but they do have hooks and suckers, but they're stealing your nutrients. We know that a vitamin B12 deficiency is very common for those infected with fish tapeworms. If you have that, you could have a low red blood cell count. So you definitely, after you have a parasite infection, once you get rid of the parasite, you still have a lot of replenishing and rebuilding to do. So beets could be a nice way to do that. That's super, super healthy. And in my opinion, super delicious. I eat them raw. I don't steam them. I don't roast them. I juice them or I just eat them completely raw. I think they're absolutely delicious. Now we're on to the carrots, and I do want to say another thing about the beets. Make sure you eat the beet greens. They're completely edible as well. And they're in the same family as spinach, so they're a little high in oxalic acid. But that being said, eat a variety of greens and you'll be okay with not getting too much oxalic acid, but that is something to take in mind. Now we're on to the carrots. Sorry about the fact I forgot that little tidbit on the beet section. Carrots are very beautiful. They come in a wide variety of colors. Try to get as many colors as possible to enhance your polyphenol content. We definitely need to be eating the rainbow, and the more different types of vegetables that we can get, and the more the heirloom varieties, in my opinion, I think that's just healthier. You can grow them yourself and then really get a super benefit. I feel that fresh grown food that you make yourself is always the best because there's always that element of your connection to the plants. Anyway, that being said, carrots are naturally anti-parasitic, and of course we have another root vegetable. Pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds and other squash seeds. It's not just limited to the pumpkin. Pumpkin is a squash. You could have butternut squash. So anytime you get those in the fall, don't throw out those seeds. You can actually dehydrate them. Maybe add a little bit of salt if that's to your liking. I keep everything raw, so I dehydrate them at about 110 degrees, maybe a little bit less. And just soak them in a little salt water, and I don't add too much salt after that. I'm trying to reduce my salt content a little bit as well. Anyway, this is definitely something. What this does is not only does the actual shells kind of irritate the tapeworms because it passes through, and I think it has a benefit of being able to kind of cut them up a little bit. But the main thing, it has a compound in it that actually can stun them, paralyze them, make it easier for your body to rid them. If you can actually get them to detach from your intestinal wall, if you do some sort of laxative or some sort of protocol that involves something like that, they can dislodge and you can push them through your body easier. This definitely works for the smaller parasites. I don't think this is going to work for a 30-foot tapeworm. Plus, you wouldn't really want that to break off so quickly because you could have an intestinal obstruction. Anyway, that being said, this is something that I use all the time. They're very high in zinc. They're good for your immune system, and they're also good for men's health as well. These are definitely a nutritional powerhouse. I like to eat mine raw and sprouted, and I always save them from my pumpkins that I get in the fall and from any other squashes that I get in the fall as well. The plantain herb versus the plantain banana. When I found out I was infected with a tapeworm, I had listened to a YouTube video talking about plantain being anti-parasitic. So I went to the store and I bought some plantain, the bananas. I had no idea that they were talking about the plantain herb, or the weed that grows basically all over the United States. Anyway, I ate a couple of the plantains. They said to eat it, raw and green. So I did. It was absolutely horrible. And after I ate a couple of them and it gave me quite a stomach ache, I realized there's no way that this is helping my parasitic infection rather. And it wasn't. I realized a few months later that the plantain they were talking about was this beautiful herb, this weed that I've been playing with since I was a child. I just never knew the name of it. It was just, a weed. I never knew it was a food or had medicinal benefits like many of you. We weren't taught these things. Anyway, the one on the left is called Plantago major. That's the broadleaf plantain or the common plantain. And the one on the right is known as Plantago lanceolata. They call that because it has lance-shaped leaves. And it's also called the English plantain or the narrow-leaf plantain. There are a few other types of plantain that grow throughout the United States, so be familiar with the wild weeds that grow in your area. The interesting thing about the plantain is the seeds are also edible. They're higher in fiber and they're quite delicious and easy to consume. They are related, if you're familiar with psyllium, which is used as a laxative in Metamucil or in just psyllium husk powder. This is actually in the same family. It's just basically a cousin. They're actually in the same genus. So it's a very interesting thing. And the interesting thing about this as well is this herb, not only is it free, especially if it grows in your own yard, you can consume it like a fresh salad green, especially in the spring when the leaves are young and tender. As they get older, they might get more fibrous. You might want to juice them, but you can add them to your blender and put them in your smoothies. And you can also tincture them or make a tea. So those are some fun ways to have plantain that's completely free and super healthy for you. Hot peppers and hot sauce. When I was doing my parasite cleanse, this was an absolute essential thing to be consuming. I added hot sauce and cayenne pepper to everything. Because if this burns them, because we know it has a high heat unit, they can't eat your food because they're like, oh my gosh. So you're irritating them. That means they're not getting those nutrients, and it was increasing my chances for getting them. Also, it was keeping my body warm, improving my metabolism. Hot peppers have a benefit just, for your heart. They're just super foods to be consuming on a regular basis. I will warn you that some are hotter than others. Do what you can handle. Don't get crazy and push yourself to where it's a dangerous situation. I have consumed a lot of ghost pepper, which is one of the hottest peppers in the world. And you might want to be very careful. When I was consuming the ghost pepper, I was consuming, if you can imagine what a jalapeno ring looks like, about the size, like a little smaller than a quarter. And I would do thinner than that and use about a quarter of that, just a little piece, put it in a smoothie. By the time I was finished with my smoothie, I would have tears running down my face, and I would have to sit on the floor and just take a moment to try to deal with it. My ears would be on fire. One time I had a little too much. I broke out into a sweat very profusely, and I was a little concerned because I was wondering if I actually had too much and could cause a serious reaction. And it seems that you possibly can. There was a gentleman who allegedly burns a hole in his esophagus by consuming ghost peppers. You can see the article that's listed here if you want to check that out. These are dangerously hot. They were listed as the hottest pepper in the world in 2007, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. It has been displaced by a few others. They found a different variety called the scorpion pepper, which is actually hotter. And then the Carolina Reaper, which is a hybrid, is hotter. And then there may be more now. So maybe it's like number 10. But it doesn't diminish the fact that it's super, super hot. And there's a lot of different types of the ghost pepper as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another food that has anti-parasitic benefits is the fennel and the fennel seeds. The fennel seeds are also covered in the herb section, but I just wanted to highlight them here. There's a great food. You can chew them right after your meals. A lot of Indian restaurants will provide those after the meal because it does enhance your digestion. And sometimes it's not just what you eat, it's what you're able to digest and what you're able to assimilate as far as your nutrients. So if you're just eating food and your body's not being able to incorporate it, you're really not getting the benefit. Of course, when you have a parasitic infection, you actually aren't getting the benefit because you have a parasite eating your food and physically providing a physical obstruction, preventing your food from being absorbed. Also, parasites cause damage to your intestinal lining. That can actually cause some of your nutrients not to be able to be absorbed. So it does have a lot of problems. But the good news is all these things can, in most cases, be reversed. All right, so the fresh fennel is very delicious. You can add it as an herb, especially the tops are going to have a lot of benefits. And it makes delicious salads. You can also juice them. We have wasabi and horseradish coming up next. They're paired together. They are in the same family. They are in the mustard family, or also known as the crucifers. The other vegetables that are in this family include cabbage and broccoli, cauliflower, radishes, and many other delicious and healthy foods. The horseradish and the wasabi roots have a heat to them, and of course we know that parasites don't like that heat. And we also know the wasabi, again, it's a root, so we know it has some sort of benefits. Maybe it's the heat that's in the wasabi that prevents the worms from eating it, but whatever it is, it definitely works. And the thing with these, the tops, you can eat those as well. Don't just throw away everything. And if you're familiar with garlic mustard, it is a wild invasive that grows all throughout the East Coast, and that actually has the same benefits. It's in the same family. The leaves and the tops are completely edible, and you can use the root just like you would wasabi or horseradish. So here we have horseradish, again another hot root vegetable. You can grind this up fresh or even have some of the stuff that you can buy that's already prepared. We have fenugreek seeds, and the reason I included this is because if you sprout this, it's actually very good for your lymphatic system, and we need to stimulate our lymphatic system as much as possible. That is basically our sewer system. It kind of keeps all the toxins moving, and one way you can do it is by eating foods that stimulate it. You can also do things like jumping jacks or do a rebounder, or you can do a lymphatic massage or use a dry brush. And if you're not familiar with those things, I just recommend Google dry brush and see what comes up. Okay, so it is noted that it does have a benefit. The fenugreek seeds are very delicious. They have a slightly sweet taste. They're used in a lot of Indian dishes. So add a lot of the spices and the foods to your cooking, and it will actually increase your body's ability to rid parasites and also to prevent parasites. So now we have radishes. Again, we're back to more root vegetables. And radishes come in all kinds of different sizes and colors and different varieties. We have the black Spanish radish, which is very delicious, and it's been known to be a rich source of phytochemicals and has shown a lot of antifungal benefits. The daikon radish as well has been claimed to be effective against certain parasites like Toxoplasma gondii. I don't know how much truth there is into that, but I see why there is no benefit not to include it. They do have some heat to it. We know they're root vegetables, so we know that they're going to have something in there that's going to repel parasites. And again, these are also in the same family as the mustards, the crucifers, the cabbage family, as we have seen with the wasabi and the horseradish. And I may not have mentioned it in beneficial foods, and I want to mention that now, is any of the cabbage family foods are going to be very supportive during a parasite cleanse, and they're actually very supportive during just healthy living. We need all the nutrients we can get, and cabbage families like kale, of course, is included in there, are going to be very beneficial. The one thing to note is that those foods are high in goitrogens, and if you are having a thyroid issue, there is a warning there that you may want to work with your doctor or maybe steam them. That does reduce the goitrogenic effect. Keep that in mind. If you are having a hypothyroid issue, throwing tons of raw kale into your smoothie might not get you where you want to go. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to my video. I give you my gratitude and my love. If you would like to support me, I do have a Patreon account. I also have a PayPal account as well. There's definitely some great rewards if you want to check that out and let me know what you think. I would appreciate it. And if you would like to learn more about intestinal parasites, please subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Hit the like button. I greatly appreciate your time. I hope this was a benefit to you. And I, again, just want to share the things that I learned along the way. One thing I do want to note is 2 years ago when I discovered I had a tapeworm, I knew about half of the foods that are listed here that were anti-parasitic. I wish I would have known all of them from the get-go, because it would have made things a lot easier, because I would have been using a bigger variety of tools to be able to address the parasitic infection. The same goes for the herbs video. I may have known, well, we'll say a third of what's in there that I know now. So now when I do my parasite cleanse, I use everything in my arsenal to do it. And it gives a better variety as far as my meals as well. I was eating a very restricted diet at the beginning because I did not know that there was other foods I could have been incorporated and should have been incorporating. So anyway, that being said, the black Spanish radish is a new addition, and the daikon radish as well. I thought I didn't like radishes. I've changed my mind. I find them quite delicious. Anyway, I digress, but at least it was the end of the video. I hope you stay in touch, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you very much.